Hey guys, and welcome back to It's Pretty Simple, a podcast about fitness, nutrition, fat loss, just trying to make it as simple as possible for you to get tools to be able to use in your journey. So today's episode is a little bit different from the episodes I usually do. We're going to go into a wellness space that is not very familiar. It is something that's new and just coming up in some parts of the world. Today with me, I have Tanya. Tanya, how are you today?
All well, thank you for having me.
I'm
I
glad to
would
have
love
you
to
here.
show you around the space and stuff as
I'd
well.
love to take a look for sure. So, Tanya, do you want to say a little bit about what it is that you do and
Absolutely.
what we're going to talk about today?
Absolutely. So I'm Tanya Kupchanani Vatsa. I'm the founder and CEO of Elixir Wellness. That's where we're sitting. We started as a one room, literally this size, with IV therapy. We're sitting on IV therapy chairs as we speak. And from there, over the last 3 years, we've expanded. We're now a chain of almost 30 centers. We have another large center opening next month.
Wow.
And this one that we're sitting in actually is our flagship. So we do everything from IV to dermatology, aesthetics, sports recovery, physiotherapy, pain relief, cryotherapy. We have an infrared sauna, hyperbaric oxygen, which is great for whole body rejuvenation and for oncology patients and stuff as well. And we do a lot of facials and fat loss, nutrition, genomics, so a lot of things under the sun. All your new age wellness is covered.
That's really cool. Yeah, new age wellness is the right term to use. What gap did you see in the wellness industry that made you think that you want to start all of this under one roof?
So I actually started this just post-COVID. I'm someone who has worked abroad for many years, and I worked in the US in the medical system, and I worked in the Bronx, which is a very like not really a healthy population. A lot of chronic diseases, a lot of obesity, a lot of insulin issues and stuff like that. And even there, the focus was very heavily on preventive care, which
Okay.
is something that is majorly missing in India. So here, even during COVID, I felt like people are taking care of things. So it's sort of like a firefighter approach where there's an emergency and then you're attending to it. But there's nothing done in advance to prevent that. And that for me has been a mission since I moved back. I actually at that point was working with my family in their cancer hospital, which is where we started the first Elixir room.
Okay.
And at that point, it was ready to test and see what the response was. But I just felt like there's nothing here that takes care of your health from a preventive perspective to make sure that these things don't happen. So we started with IV therapy. Of course, now one of our most popular therapies is skin, which is how we ended up branching more into dermatology and aesthetics. But at that point, the goal was wellness and immunity, which is still a big component of everything we do. So our IVs, wellness and immunity, skin, we do something for migraine, we have something for PCOS. We have a pre-conception one to make sure you get all your nutrients in place. We have a post-conception for breastfeeding mothers, which has specific nutrients that don't cross the blood at the milk barrier. So there your glutathione and your magnesium will be avoided, but there are other things to sort of boost their immunity, help with pigmentation, um, help with hydration while you're breastfeeding. So that was the initial gambit and the initial launch was just IV therapy. And from there, we've expanded based on the needs of our customers. So because a lot of the IVs that did well was skin, we went more into the skin space. For me, wellness has always been a passion. So that's why we have a hyperbaric. And as we've grown and grown from one center to another, and our spaces have gotten larger, longevity is a buzzword, and longevity and biohacking are terms that are now doing their rounds here, but I still feel like it's not fully understood. Like sports recovery is understood, longevity and how it actually works on a molecular level is very cool for people to talk about, but it's not really understood. So there are things like ozone therapy or red light therapy that actually work on a mitochondrial level. So that's where your biohacking and longevity come in. And we're early in the space, but it's a really exciting space as people are just learning about it. And people who travel particularly go to your Viva Meyer in Austria or will do a round of NAD plus IV in Dubai, will come back and say, okay, do you have this? And this is something we want to do.
Do you have NAD plus?
Yes.
Because I take supplements and I have no idea if they work or not.
So I take NAD plus once a month and I find, and I wear the Whoop, so I'm very big on metrics and tracking and stuff like that personally as well. I forayed into it because of all my research in this space. And I'm someone who's had a lot of health issues, so I actually feel how this affects me because I track not just my longevity markers, but my bloods and stuff very closely. And I've learned that with the NAD plus, like my inflammation markers have dropped significantly. And
Interesting.
I'm someone with pretty high generalized anxiety, and I've been on beta blockers and stuff for a while, but my meds are now less. My sleep is better. My I mean, I have skin and stuff, of course, but I don't really get the time to do like the facials and stuff more than once a month. But I also realize that the day I take NAD plus, my energy in sports or at the gym is so much higher, not just that day for the week, but my heart rate variability also goes up. Like, I mean, if my average is 40, it'll be like an 80 or 90 that day, and it's the highest that you'd see it on the Whoop ever, at least for my body. So these are things that I realize that happen when I actually take the vitamins immediately.
Okay.
So
And this is through IV?
This is through IV.
Okay. All right. Well, most of my audience is a common man. Okay, so they don't really know too much about these things. Maybe they do, and that's great. But for me, IV is a very new space because it's funny because I think that India is a little bit backward. Correct me if I'm wrong when it comes to the nutrition and the fitness space a little bit. Yeah, I think what is being taught by nutritionists and trainers, at least from my knowledge, is a little maybe 5 years behind in what they're learning. So the fact that I've only heard mostly that IV is happening in India, for me, it's like, okay, wow, that's a great thing because I mean, I live in Kuwait, we don't really have that. You know, people want to go check their blood, they go to the hospital, they get a regular IV drip for vitamins or anything. There's no clinics for anything like that. And cryo, red light therapy is now becoming a big thing. Yes, I think cryo has been around for a while, but I want to really focus on the IV aspect of it. So what is different from taking your supplements over actually getting a drip in? And what is the difference in, you know, where supplements you're taking it every single day, IV is a once in a while thing. So what are the benefits of doing it through an IV rather than supplementing?
So before I get to that, I just want to correct, India actually, yes, we're behind in terms of like like the general population being aware of it, but there is a group um that is very, very aware, because particularly the people who travel, they try all these things abroad, they come back, and like yesterday someone messaged me saying, why don't you have hydrogen therapy? And I was like, I've been researching it, but the research is still mixed. And with us, we have a team of doctors. So when we put something in, we want to be really sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So there are people who are asking about these things. Even before we had NAD, people were asking for it. BPC 157 is another common peptide. We have your athletes particularly asking for it. And it's something that's not allowed here, so we don't have it, but it's common abroad.
Okay.
So, there is an awareness and it's coming. But yes, in terms of fitness in the gym, the reason we're behind, I feel, is because there's so much misinformation. And maybe that's everywhere. But here, particularly, if one person is talking about it, there'll be 500 people saying the opposite. I saw a post recently about Sheila Jeet, and it was a fitness influencer talking about, oh, Sheila Jeet, which has suddenly become really popular because there's some celebs endorsing it.
What
it
is
good for
Sheila
you?
Jeet?
It's
Sorry.
basically like it's an extract from the mountains that people are now taking as a testosterone enhancer.
Okay.
So it was a post that a fitness influencer put in, and I was reading the comments, and I feel now on Insta I spend more time on the comments than on the posts. And it was like, what about ashwagandha? What about this? What about? So there is a lot of stuff coming in. I don't think people research it to the extent they should before taking something.
Yeah, because social media is now your research,
That's
which is
the big social media
scary,
is.
actually.
But anyway, coming back to IV, so when we started 3 years ago, it really wasn't there outside of the hospital. There was one company that started around the same time as us, but now it's everywhere. Your parlors are doing it. Of course, all your dermats are doing it. Cosmetologists and aestheticians are doing it. And actually, that's scary because I feel like this is something going directly in your bloodstream. It should be a doctor writing a prescription.
Yeah.
So it should be a little bit more regulated, and that's something that I've been advocating for a while. But the reason it is doing so well is because, particularly after COVID, but also in general with our lifestyles, there's so much inflammation in the gut. That's why gut health has also become such a buzzword, and your probiotics and your probiotics for the skin and probiotics that people are also overusing because you're messing with your gut microbiome without realizing what you're putting in and whether that's what you need. But because there's so much inflammation in the gut, bioavailability of meds has become so little that when you're taking a supplement, you don't know what's actually going in. Versus an IV, you know it's going directly to your bloodstream and it's bypassing the gut. Now, of course, that also has its pros and cons, which is why we're so particular. Everything we use is tested, retested. We have clinical studies for every ingredient that goes in. And that's why a doctor needs to be involved in the process. So our consults are detailed, they're personalized. So for example, if you came and told me that, okay, my sleep is an issue, we'll ask you if you're taking magnesium. And then that's something that we would consider adding because magnesium helps with sleep, it helps with muscle recovery. So what we use is all supplements that are normal and natural to the body and not medication at all, but still there is an MD and a doctor involved in the process. Now, glutathione, for example, is the most popular IV ingredient. The bioavailability, as per clinical studies, through the gut is less than 15%, versus in 99 to 100% we are taking in through the blood. And glutathione is something that the body makes that reduces as we age. So when you're supplementing it, it's brilliant for your skin, but that's a side effect that they found. Yeah, which is actually, so people come in and say, oh, do you have gluta? We want to lighten, ask in a few shades. And my doctors, the first thing they say is that's not what it's for.
Yeah.
It's actually something that people started supplementing in liver cancer patients, and they realize that, oh, this is helping the skin. But what it does, and the reason it even helps the skin, is it detoxes all your organs. So including your liver, including your lungs, you actually get more detoxified and cleaner by taking a glutathione supplement. So that's one of the most popular IV ingredients, but overall IV for skin, for general health, for wellness has become really popular because of people taking it, realizing the effects, talking to their friends, bringing other people in. And so when we started, a lot of our branding and marketing was focused on education and what is IV and how it helps. Now we're sort of beyond that because it has gotten to the layman and to the population. We've done over the last 3 years close to 40,000 IVs. So we know that it's not like something that's not known in homes. It's not just done in hospitals anymore. In fact, when people have dengue, malaria and stuff, very often we get calls. We do home care across the city, and we do a lot of those IVs for those situations as well. When you actually are in dire need and would go to a hospital, our team is able to take care of that because we have a clinician team behind it. We also do hangover boots.
Yeah, I was told that. That's super interesting. That would be great. I wish they had it where I lived.
We tested one over the weekend, actually, Dehradun. So my team flew down.
Oh, wow.
We've done Ahmedabad in Feb. We've done a few really big weddings this year. So
weddings are so funny. IVs, wedding season works for IVs as well.
Started for us, like the last couple of years was the bride coming in and then their family coming in and the wedding party coming in to get prepped. Now this hangover booth and at wedding concept has taken over. So we actually have a team there with technicians, with doctors.
That's really interesting. Coming to the most popular IVs, I want to focus a little bit more away from the skin and the dermatology part of it, but more about when it comes to the nutrition side and the recovery side and the fitness side of it. So what are the most popular IVs that you have for that?
So I actually started this journey with my own health. And I tried IV abroad before starting it here. And what I realized, which wasn't the intended effect, I took something for skin and for general wellness and immunity. And my migraines at this point, it was just post-COVID, I was getting 20 headaches a month.
Oh, wow.
I was seeing a pain specialist. I was taking Restil. I was taking tryptophans. I was on really hardcore medication and it wasn't helping. And I literally did 2 IVs and it was an accidental finding that, hey, my headaches have not been so bad at this point. So I ended up researching it more and actually put together with a team of formulators a migraine IV. And then when we started testing Elixir here before we launched, I did 8 rounds of that, like 8 sessions once a week for 8 weeks. And my headache still till date, like maybe I'm at once a month and that's also hormone related. Or if I've really dehydrated and been really stupid about my nutrition and stuff, that's when it happens. But it's not a lifestyle thing. It's not something I'm struggling with. I'm not on any medications as a preventive, and it's just been this combination of nutrients that has worked really well. So migraine is a super popular one. Wellness and immunity is something that works brilliantly. I think 2 days ago, Sohali Khan called and said, I have the flu, and she's done a bunch of...
She's an actress.
she's an actress. She's done a bunch of IVs with us over the years and posted about it as well. And she was like, we have this flu going around the whole house. So what do I take? And the doctors customized some version of wellness and immunity. And she posted as a thank you, just the day after when she was feeling better. Simone Kambata, who's an influencer, did a very similar round 2 weeks before. Her whole household was sick. And she posted in the night that she was at the hospital and took an IV there. And she called me in the morning saying, I went in the middle of the night, but sent someone home for me and the entire household. And she posted as a thank you because they all felt better after. In fact, she tried to travel the next day, and that was the day that war broke out. So there were stories about that as well. But like up and about and feeling better. So even in a dengue and malaria situation, our wellness immunity is really popular in terms of ingredients, magnesium, B12, amino acids are the things we use, and they really give you an energy boost. They work well for chronic fatigue as well. And from a nutrition and exercise perspective, they're really good for sports recovery because you feel better, your muscles are getting a much needed boost of magnesium. So your soreness is less, that lactic acid buildup is less, and you actually get better sleep, which again is the biggest thing when it comes to recovery.
That's nice. And women in their, let's say, 40s, perimenopause, going into menopause, is there something specific that you would recommend for them when it comes to IV?
So our doctors actually customize it because when you're in that perimenopause phase, we're looking at a whole host of things. The symptoms for each person is different.
Yeah.
It's really sad that perimenopause, even though now it is getting some attention, but historically has always been very ignored, and women don't even realize that they're in it. I have a friend, quite a few friends in that phase and going through that, and they're like, are we really in it? There's no singular blood test also to tell you. It has to be like a chain of tests that are testing you over time to really see the fluctuation. Because of course at that point your periods are also there but starting to get erratic, maybe heavier than they were, maybe lighter than they were. So people are not really sure what they're going through. I personally, just to give you some background, I'm in a full-blown medically induced menopause.
Okay.
So for me, it happened overnight where I was given an injection and my estrogen. And at this point, it's supposed to have come back, but I've done my blood test this weekend and I know that my ovaries have sort of, as response to whatever, have closed off. So I have felt whatever your perimenopause is going through, like
you have all the symptoms.
I'm up the whole night sweating. I change my clothes 2-3 times in the night because it's that bad. I have a brand new, much larger than needed AC that goes down to 16 degrees and the fan on full. And when my kids come to sleep in my bed, they come in hoodies because I'm hot the whole night. So, so also, like I said, Elixir and our offerings have evolved with my health journey. So this is something that is very much on the forefront on everyone's mind. And when you're in that state, it's not just IV that helps. Yes, we do have IVs that help because hydration is a big one. Magnesium is a big one. Sleep, for me personally, sleep is such an issue that the magnesium is really important. Calcium, amino acids in your protein mix, because like I know that in 2 years of this up and down hormonally, I have osteopenia. So in spite of working out really heavy and weights and weight training and playing a sport and stuff, you can still see that, bone density depletion. So again, we're looking at calcium, we're looking at amino acids. NAD plus is something that really helps. That helps even if you're planning to conceive. It helps in this premenopause phase because it works on your mitochondria and mitochondrial repair and cell regeneration and turnover. So these are all things that work really well in that phase. But if someone comes in and is perimenopausal, we're also looking at the skin and skin hydration. You're looking at skin boosters because their skin is starting to lose that laxity. We look at things that build collagen. So again, collagen is given through IV, but should also be done through things like dermapen and microneedling and MNRF because that's a great way, the best way actually to build it. And then red light and also infrared sauna. So in fact, a month ago, I've added, in spite of having it here, I've added an IR sauna at home because I was like, I want to work on one of my goals from a longevity perspective and from a menopausal perspective is muscle. Because sarcopenia is one of the quickest ways to sort of age. And so an infrared sauna is a great way not just to get your muscles more into a hypertrophic state, because when you're in that and you're slightly dehydrated, what happens is your blood volume is going up. So your overall body circulation is going up. If you do it post-workout, you're feeding your muscles. So it's a great way to increase your muscle mass. And I've seen that in the last 6 months, I've gone from a 40 kilos lean muscle mass to 43.
From the
From
red light therapy.
From the red light so I have red light. I do red light regularly. I do the sauna. Particularly doing it post workout is a benefit, and I do red light therapy before bedtime to help me with sleep. So these are a couple of things that we actually supply to people who want it at home, and we've added at home as well, because I'm like so particular about my routine given everything happening with my health. So in a perimenopausal state, all these things are important. It's not just one. Hyperbaric oxygen as well. Because at that point,
hyperbaric oxygen, explain that a little bit, please.
So hyperbaric oxygen actually, it looks like a sort of a submarine chamber. Ours is a seated chamber. There are hospitals that have it where you're lying down. And those are a glass chamber, and the whole chamber is oxygenated. Ours is a little different because it's been designed for us with wellness in mind. So you're sitting on a recliner like this. You're breathing in oxygen through a mask, and you can put your iPad in, you put your feet up, there's a footstool, but the chamber closes. So now it's a pressurized chamber, and it takes you to up to 3 times atmospheric pressure.
Wow.
And the goal of that is when you're in that pressurized state, your body actually takes in oxygen at a much higher capacity, but also uses it better. So it's great. So a lot of athletes come in for that. It's really good for sports recovery. It's really good for, again, you're looking at mitochondrial health, muscle recovery, but also cancer cells don't grow in an oxygenated environment.
Yeah.
So when you're going through that, we have a lot of oncology patients who come in because they supplement their chemo and stuff by doing that. Also for diabetics, any kind of wound healing, any kind of ulcers, diabetic foot ulcers that don't heal elsewhere, the hyperbaric oxygen is doctor recommended as something that they should be doing. And just by breathing in it through the mask, your entire body is getting that higher level of oxygen. So it's very, very good for healing. So we even work with radiation patients. We work with diabetologists and endocrinologists to use it for people in that state.
Interesting.
I personally take it from a cancer prevention.
Okay. I had done the oxygen therapy at one point, very briefly, and then I had stopped it, but I think it was too short to see any benefits at that point.
So you need a number of sessions to see the benefits. So for me personally, in spite of sitting here, these are all things I want to do, and like the oxygen is a one-off for me, because getting in without a phone for an hour is absolutely impossible. There's no way that in the daytime I can get that privilege. But there are times I'll come in on a Sunday and say, okay, let me, and my sauna was irregular on a Sunday because that was the only time I was getting to do it post-workout. I work out usually in the evenings. Sunday is the only time it's in the morning. That's why now I've added it at home, because I'm like, I want this to be a daily thing. So my son actually, like last night I got home from tennis at 8 and he said, are you getting in? I preheated it for you. And we got in together and we were sitting outside and chatting.
This is something I'm actually planning to do at my place as well. I'm planning to put an infrared sauna. Yeah, this is the goal. I mean, let's look at cryotherapy and infrared. So cryotherapy is extremely cold, while your infrared sauna is warm. So I personally cannot do cryo because I have Raynaud's, and so cold just doesn't work for me. But from my understanding and from my research, I have understood that going into a sauna is better for women than going into extreme cold, right? So most of my audience and my clients are women. So I kind of want to come to that. Like, what is the difference between a woman going into cryo, a woman going into a sauna?
So honestly, we have a lot of women who do cryo, and it's really, really good for pain relief, particularly for women. For men, of course, your muscle recovery and all that comes in as well. For a woman, you can get that benefit from the sauna. When it comes to women, have a vasovagal response. That's why they say that extreme cold is an issue. So when a woman's going in, we're more particular about making sure that the pre-cooling is done before, that you're not in for that, and that 3-minute duration is exactly maintained, and then they're stepped out. And from that perspective, it's great. Very good for pain relief, very good for your muscles, very, very good for mood. So in a perimenopause situation, that dopamine hit that you get, very good for a woman to get that serotonin and dopamine boost. And they do feel better. There's a lot of studies that have shown the effects of the cryo on depression.
It's kind of like getting the same amount of dopamine as taking cocaine, from what I heard, when you go into cryo, right? It just, instead of it spiking and dropping, it kind of just stays at this upward for a bit, and then it's stable.
And it's also really good from a weight loss perspective. So if someone's taking a weight loss package, getting into a cryo for 3 minutes, you burn 1,200 extra calories that day. So it's really, really good for you. It's not that I wouldn't recommend it for women, but given that we have the sauna available as well, if you're someone particularly where you're looking at, like I said, muscle, So people have gotten into cold plunges and cryos for the longest time, thinking that, oh, this is a great thing to do post-workout. But it is, but there's a window. So if you're just post-workout, actually what you need is heat, because when you're increasing that circulation and you're increasing your blood volume, and those heat shock proteins are actually going to help you with muscle growth, and not go put you directly into a muscle repair phase. When you're getting into cryo, you're going into muscle repair. So cryo is great more than 8 hours after. So like if you worked out at night the next day, or you worked out in the morning, in the evening, you can do it to feel better. But the sauna should be done immediately after.
So if you finish your workout, you go into the sauna. I see this quite a bit, like at the gym and everything. People go into the sauna and then they go into a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to do or not?
So there's a third set of studies that have come out, which is on the contrast effect.
Okay.
So yes, there is a benefit of the contrast effect, but I feel like personally, I would space it out, because the contrast effect is not good depending on your goals, right? So if you're someone who's trying to build muscle and you're trying to go into hypertrophy, then I wouldn't do a hot and cold. I would do a hot, and the cold can be more moderated. Like personally, post the sauna, it's not possible to have a hot shower. And I'm someone who can't stand the cold, so my shower has to be as hot as the sun.
Me too.
Yeah. But still, post the sauna, I'm feeling so hot that it's a more room temperature sort of situation than, like, the burning hot. But a hot cold has effects in terms of, again, muscle recovery is really good for, it's good for mood. You're getting that up and down from your dopamine and serotonin, and some more long lasting mood stabilization effect. Circulation as well is affected by that. If you're someone who wants pain relief, then the hot and cold and the contrast therapy is brilliant. And even if physio would tell you hot pack, cold pack, alternate. So again, it depends on what your goals are. So if that's your goal, hot and cold is great. There's no harm in doing that. If your goal is just mood, muscle soreness, muscle repair, then you can finish your workout, go into the cold. But if it's hypertrophy and you're looking at a long-term longevity perspective, if you're trying to reduce muscle, you're trying to increase your muscle mass and reduce soreness and aches and pains, then it would be a hot immediately after your workout, and you can do post 8 hours, you can get into the cold.
That's really interesting, because there's so much research like saying different things, but nobody really says exactly what it's for. There's so many, no, you should do this, you shouldn't do this, you should do this. It's an overwhelm of information nowadays. So
I also, because I'm in this space and it's a personal interest as well, and that's probably why I'm in this space, but I do a lot of research, and where you're actually sitting on PubMed and going through the articles and stuff, because like I said, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and if you're only getting your information from social media, you're going to be confused.
Definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people also think that the people giving you that information on social media are going through articles, but most of them are not. It's become like Chinese whispers, a buzzword comes out and then we use it. And it's completely different studies or just different opinions on everything.
I have so many friends who ask me, what do you think of this supplement, or what do you think of this? And I'm like, okay, I'm sending you the research and the data behind it. And they'll be like, but we heard, like literally Sheila Jeet we were talking about, it's great for testosterone. Should we be taking it? Should every man be taking it? And there's so much contrary information, and there's so much information that taking an Ayurvedic supplement like that has metals in it. So you don't know what you're doing to your kidney and your liver and your processing.
Yeah. I mean, I have a few clients as well that be like, oh, my friends have been taking this, so I'm going to take it. And I said, what does it do? Oh, it speeds up metabolism. I'm like, do you even know what speeding up your metabolism means? Like, a supplement cannot speed up your metabolism. Realistically, the only things that's going to speed up your metabolism is having a higher muscle mass in order to be burning more. Without that, it's impossible. So what is this? Okay. And then I start researching, looking at articles. I'm like, it's supposed to help you with anxiety and keep your insulin levels in check. It has nothing to do with metabolism, but this is just the buzzwords people put on these supplements. So what should people look out for when, let's say they don't have access to IV, okay, and they want to go in for the supplements? What should people look out for when they're looking at supplements? Because I feel like so many supplements will just write these buzzwords and these marketing things on it, but it does not do anything close to what it says on it.
I honestly feel like a doctor should be involved in that process, because it's such a customized thing at this point. Like right now, they say 3 types of magnesium. If you have a sleep issue, take your threonate. If you have a muscle issue, take your citrate, and people are reading this and like everybody is on magnesium. But maybe not everyone needs it. So I would say a doctor who can tell you these are the blood tests to do, and then based on what your blood profile is, this is what you should be taking. I feel that's really, really important. We've had people come in who have gone to other places, taken IV or taken a certain number of supplements, even if it's not IV, and you see like the B12 level is through the roof. Or the D3 level is through the roof. And these are things that, okay, we know it's good for you, but it's not. I mean, maybe your body doesn't need as much as you're putting in. So I feel like actually monitoring that and having a doctor customize it for you is really important. That being said, yes, you're over a certain age, and omega-3 is going to help you, and magnesium is going to help you. But when it comes to the even creatine, for that fact, is one of the most, I think it is the most researched supplement in the world. But if you're someone who has a kidney issue, or your LFTs are low, or your renal function is off, then it's not good for you. It's going to give you more kidney problems, So I do feel like before starting any supplement, a detailed list of tests are done. Even if you don't want to sit with a doctor, just do it to make sure that your levels are all okay. And then you can go and decide what you want to take. But having someone with medical knowledge take a look at you to make sure that what you're taking is not putting you in a state where you're having too much of it, because not all supplements are water soluble. At here, what we give through IV, other than your vitamin D, everything is water soluble. So we know that even if it's an excess, it comes out. But if someone's taking a package, our doctors do make them do a comprehensive set of blood tests to make sure that everything going in is in the right dose. They're not getting an excess of anything. They're not malnourished in any areas. So that's something that we look at very extensively. And I think that no matter what supplement you're taking, if it's more than just a simple, maybe an omega-3 or a creatine or a magnesium, if you're taking something beyond that, you should be looking at these things. You should also be looking at a metabolic profile as we age to see that the insulin is in check, that your hormones are in check, because these are all supplements have an effect.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think people realize how much of an effect.
Yeah. But then again, you can find the same supplement for a really cheap price and the same supplement for a really expensive price.
Yeah.
And this is where it comes down to what is actually going to work and what's not going to work. And sometimes people are like, oh, I found like NAD, for example.
Yeah.
It's become the hype now. Huberman's been talking about it on his podcast. Everybody's talking about it. So that's what got me to start researching and wanting to start taking it. And
it's not just NAD. When Huberman says NAD, they'll also go into NMN and all
exactly
the precursors to getting your NAD out.
Exactly.
There's a lot of stuff.
But then there's so many different brands doing so many different things. And then when you actually look at the details and the ingredients behind it, completely different. I feel like a lot of times you're just labeling it, so I guess, yes, speaking to a doctor is super important. And how often should somebody take blood tests? Because obviously if you are deficient of something, or you're a bit over on something, and then you get a supplement, at some point you are going to come into balance. So how often, if somebody's orally taking supplements, should they be
So honestly, once a year is enough. Even like you said, women in their 40s, and that's the age group we're talking to and talking about, once a year is enough, unless you have a deficiency or something you're looking for. So in my case, I have a very strong family history of breast cancer, which is why I'm estrogen depleted. I've been through a few scares myself. And because of that, I do it every 3 months. But that's an anomaly, and my 3-monthly will be, my cancer markers will be done more often, my hormones will be done more often, and everything else is sort of like the round I did this weekend. I didn't look at my vitamins, I didn't look at my magnesium, I didn't look at anything else because I've done that in February. Okay. But so if you're diabetic, if you're PCOS, if you're perimenopausal, I would say once in 6 months. But if you have no major health issues and it's just general supplements that you're taking, once a year is more than enough.
Okay. Coming to PCOS, what kind of IVs would help somebody with PCOS?
So we actually have a PCOS IV. It basically targets your symptoms and stuff that you're dealing with when you have PCOS. So metabolism, L-carnitine is something that we use for that. Pigmentation in skin, so your glutathione, collagen, for bone density, and also from an anti-aging perspective, vitamin C is something that we give. Vitamin C actually helps as an antioxidant, helps your glutathione absorb better. NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine, converts into hyaluronic acid in the body. So it helps your glutathione be used better. It's always given with gluta. But it's also something that's very hydrating to the body. So these are all things, particularly in that situation where we're looking at addressing stubborn fat, we're looking at addressing metabolism, we're looking at addressing the skin, and hormone balancing. That's a cocktail that's made particularly for PCOS that we give at that point.
So what are the supplements for PCOS?
Carnitine,
Carnitine,
important.
L-carnitine.
Carnitine
Yeah.
important, glutathione, collagen, vitamin C, and magnesium. Magnesium, we would also do an amino acid
Okay.
to make sure that the proteins and stuff that are going in are adequate. It also really, PCOS comes with insomnia, it comes with so many issues. If you look at symptoms, we're looking at like a 50-point list at least.
Yeah.
So we try to address and then we customize it based on what the client is going through.
Super interesting, honestly. Okay, so talking about recovery when it comes athletic recovery. So somebody who is training a lot, like me personally, I train about 5 to 6 times a week, and I do a lot of things, but I would say I'm not so good with actually taking my recovery seriously in the sense of, saunas and all these things. I do my mobility, I do my stretching, but obviously it goes beyond that. So somebody who trains more than 4 days a week, what are we looking at when it comes to recovery, and why is it important?
So honestly, particularly as we age, the chances of injury, number one, is such a big thing. Because I don't think we realize what our bone density is. Even if you're someone who is fairly muscular, you can have tears and stuff like that. I work out 7 days a week. But the reason I'm able to do that is because I take my recovery very seriously. Like if there's a workout, there is a recovery process that goes in. And also because I'm someone who has not historically worked out. So the last year I did Pilates for years post my daughter being born. And then the last year when I was like, okay, I'm getting osteoporotic, I'm going around that, I have to change what I'm doing. So I started playing a sport for the first time in my life. I've never played a sport before, but I wanted something that I could do with my kids. So I started playing tennis. I play 3 days a week with the coach one-on-one. I play on Sundays with my kids in the mornings, and that's more of a fun session. But that was the goal for me, was to have something that we could do together that was outside of food. Otherwise, all I have, like, what do you want to do? Oh, let's go here to eat. Or let's go shop, or let's pick up something. I wanted a hobby that I could do with them that was a long-term thing. And then my other days are strength training days and resistance training and weights. And now, I've started with 2 kilo dumbbells, but now I'm at a point where I can lift a 20 kilo kettlebell and do my swings with that. So over the last year, I've seen that strength build. Like I said, I've seen the muscle mass build as well. But I'm doing it without a trainer. I'm doing a 90-minute workout when I'm doing my weights. So I know my risk of injury is also very high, which is where recovery comes in and why it's so important. Frankly, anyone who does a workout should be doing some kind of recovery, whether it's a recovery package here, whether it's a cold plunge, whether it's a sauna, whether it's just a red light panel. But your muscle needs that time to recover. Even if it's a recovery day where you do something, that kind of helps your body rejuvenate, that works as well. For me, because I want to do my 3 days with the coach and my 1 day with the kids and my 3 days of weights, I'm not getting that day off. So I make sure that my recovery is.
You need a day off though. From a trainer's perspective, you need a day off for sure.
Feel like, okay, it's too much, or I've gotten sore, then I'll skip one. So like last week I took Thursday off. This week I'm hoping not to take a day off at all. The week before, I think the kids were sick and it didn't happen. Life always gets in the way, right? So there's always that one day, like maybe it's a 1 day in 2 weeks for me that I'm like, okay, today there's too much happening and I can't make the time. Something with work, something with it. So I try not to schedule it because I know it'll happen at least once in 10 days on its own. I've been trying to get to like a 16-day workout streak on the hoop, and it's not happened in the last 6 months.
Okay, but that's a good thing actually, honestly, because you know as well, like if you're training every single day, your muscles are not recovering, and your inflammation is also going to be quite high. So having a day off is important for sure.
But then, because I'm not scheduling that day off, I'm making sure that my recovery routine is a lot.
Yeah.
So, for example, last night I played tennis. I got home, I got into the sauna immediately. I was in for about. Normally, I can sit for about 30 in the infrared sauna. Yesterday, because it was post-tennis and it was so hot, I managed about 20 minutes. My son was in for 15, then he was standing outside and chatting with me for the balance 15. Post that, I had my shower, ate my dinner, had my protein shake before my dinner. I had a glass of fiber before the protein so that my foods are in the right order. So the fiber went in, then the protein, then there were veggies that happened, then I had my meal.
So glad you do it that way. I'm trying to teach people to do it that way as well.
So I've gone to CGM for a bit and actually watched the insulin spikes and I think the glucose spikes, and I think seeing it like that shows you that what you're reading and what you're studying is like
Yes,
so
yeah.
relevant. In fact, post my lunch, I walk and make sure that I got in a 20-25 minute walk every single day.
That's
So
good.
that is also maintained. So I have that meal, and then the kids sat with me in the room. We're watching Young Sheldon together. They put that on the iPad, but I sat in front of the red light panel. So after my body had cooled off, I did the red light because that helps me with sleep. I then do 10 minutes of breathing either during the red light or after. And then just before I sleep for 5 minutes, I put my feet in cold water. And like I said, I'm someone who can't stand the cold. But the last month and a half, I've been doing this because it turns on the parasympathetic nervous system and actually helps you fall asleep better. And also pre-meal, there was calcium. I take metformin since the last 20 years for PCOS.
Okay.
Metformin, which is now being boosted as a longevity drug, but it's for insulin resistance. And I take a beta blocker for anxiety and for my heart rate because that tends to be all over the place. So that was my pre-dinner tablets. And then post that, somewhere between the red light and whatever, I take 5 milligrams of melatonin. I take asparginin, which is the part of chamomile that helps you sleep. I take 2 tablets of magnesium, even though I take magnesium IV, because like I said, I'm estrogen depleted, so that's important. And I take theanine to help me switch off. So that supplementation round happens. And then I'll get into bed and put on the iPad, and before my like 5 minutes of the show are up, I'm out. So I put my phone on airplane, my devices on airplane mode. I'll get in, and so my recovery routine, like I said, is something.
You sound like a biohacker.
Yes.
You sound like a biohacker.
On a normal day, I would have done, while last night I had dinner with my family because my brother's in town. So we sat on the dining table. But on a normal day, I will eat dinner with the Normatec compression legs on.
Okay.
So the kids sit on the dining table. I sit next to them with like my feet up, and I do my compression boots. So my recovery is something I take very seriously.
Yeah, I can tell.
And
Wow.
the biohacker thing has sort of happened organically, but it's
I mean, you are in this space. You want to do the research. You've obviously started this because of your own health issues that you face. So it makes a lot of sense. Would you say it's worth, I mean, no, not everyone can actually put up a sauna, but would you say it's worth getting a red light panel at home and getting the compression boots at home?
I think honestly they're pretty expensive. It's not something that everyone can afford. And I do think having a full panel is better than the mask. I see a lot of people picking up the mask, and we've also seen clients come in with burns from it, depending on how, like, if you bought a cheap mask or not a good one, or it's not, so not the right wavelengths, you're not even getting. And I don't think anyone is doing research on what wavelengths they're using. So you might not be using the right tech, but at least having access to a space that has it.
If they don't have access,
then at least making sure it's a good quality one, but not, you don't need to put a sauna at home, but at least a red light panel, I feel, is something that's really helpful. You don't have to do the compression boots. You can get the Hyperbaric gun, and just that on, not so places you're feeling sore. I mean, those are pretty inexpensive. We have them here as well. They constantly have deals and sales on them from the vendor. So that's something that is very easy to add at home, and just making sure that you're getting, or even like a sports massage.
What about the sauna bags?
I don't know how effective. So, I mean,
you sweat. I mean, my friend has them. I've never used one before, but
personally, I'm someone who's very cautious about radiation. So I just feel like if I'm getting into something like that, and I don't know how, if the sauna bags are really new. There's a cryo bag also that's come out that I've seen in like the last 10 days. It's very new. But I just feel like if I'm getting something surrounding me, I want to know how safe it is. The other thing that I've been reading about a lot is like your sleep mattresses and your sleep pillows and things like that.
the grounding the grounding sheet is a new thing.
The grounding sheet's still okay, but like the pillow that actually tells you how well you slept and stuff, I don't want that under my head. So I feel the sauna is the mattress is a similar thing for me, where it just doesn't feel safe. We've also considered putting, so red light is actually comes under photobiomodulation. That's the official term for it. And you get these PBM beds, photobiomodulation beds, where you actually get into the bed and you're compressed in it. And so, I mean, there are a few US companies that do it well. There's so many Chinese knockoffs. I would personally be so scared to put that in. So we've been considering it for a while, and I'm like, until I know there's enough demand to get the official and the expensive one, it's not something I'm going to add, because I think that safety with these devices is really important. We see I can't tell you how many burns we see from
From the
random
masks.
from
Okay.
the mask, from home laser treatments, from things like that. So we're just very, very careful and cautious when we do it.
So if somebody doesn't have access to anything and cannot afford to get something good, what should they be doing?
Sponge massage.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or that's something I do every 2 weeks.
A very cold bath. Put your feet in a bucket of ice before sleeping. Stuff
The
like that.
basics.
Put Epsom salt in your hot water, and put your soak in it for a few minutes. Just literally basics. It doesn't have to. Wellness doesn't have to be an expensive problem.
So just back to the basics,
Yeah.
basically. What are your thoughts on magnesium oil?
I use it every night.
Yeah, it's great,
use the
right?
spray. I put it on my feet. Now if there's like soreness, so my skin over whatever I've been through has become really, really sensitive. So earlier, if I had like an ache or a pain, I would put your menthol patch or put something. I did it a few weeks ago, and I realized that like I still have a patch on my belly that's red. I had cramps. So magnesium oil is the easiest thing. Even the kids now, like, Mama, can you put it for us? Something is hurting. So we've moved from your menthol and your tiger balms and stuff
Yeah.
to like a magnesium oil, and it really helps. I sprayed it on my neck last night. I wouldn't have been able to turn in this direction. I was really badly caught.
What about CBD creams? What are your thoughts on CBD?
So I've used CBD. So I had a dog who was the love and obsession of my life, still is. And I used CBD oil extensively for him when he was sick. And I just felt like that's something that it really helped him in terms of like getting around. He lost his vision overnight, and that's something that helped. My mom, at some point through breast cancer treatment, I had given it to her, and she found that she was ravenously hungry. And she didn't like that because weight was a concern, and and nausea was a concern, and she didn't want to, so it's something that the family has used. We have a vendor that does a brilliant CBD oil, and it's someone I trust and I know is really pure. So she's given it to us for aches and pains. But personally, I feel unless it's a severe injury, it's not something that I would use. They do have a dream cream though. It's called a dream cream.
Okay.
And it's something that I've used. Like she says, put a dot behind the ears, and I did feel it helped me sleep. My issue with that is more that it's a sugary and a granular cream, and I just found it really messy.
Okay.
I mean, I already have layers of cream on my face before I sleep. I didn't want to be adding one more thing, but it's something that has shown great benefits. I think it's personal whether it works for you or not. I would recommend using it topically and not ingesting it. I mean, CBD in general now is pretty well accepted worldwide. I think I used a face oil at some point that was the CBD one, and I felt post laser, particularly like laser hair removal, it would sort of calm down the skin, but it's not something I've used extensively over time.
What about it's called ENF therapy with the little
EMF, grounded?
Not the grounded. There are these little stickers. I'm getting the name wrong. It's these little stickers, and they have like a Da Vinci kind of guy on them. I don't know if you know what those are.
So but there's so much stuff that's coming out now. I've seen red
It's
light.
quite old actually. It's like before all this, and my physio used to use it for me to reduce pain. So like every time I'd have ankle issues, if they do needling or anything, they would put it sometimes, and they have different levels, and he would put it sometimes behind my neck, which would like make me be. It's like a magnetic. I don't know. It's a circular thing that has different levels. I think it's called EMF.
I'll check it out. It's not so our physio team is very no machines. They're big believers in hands.
It's not machines. You just put it a sticker and you walk out. Yeah, it's super interesting. I need to get the name actually because I was using it and it really, really helped. And I don't live in Kuwait anymore, so I don't get the stickers anymore. But I remember that it got to a point where he would just give me extras, and every time I get really, really sore or something, I just put it on, and there was different levels to know where to put what. And that really helped with inflammation. I've
not seen it here at all. I've not even seen it online. Maybe now that my phone is in the room and it's listening, it might show up for us in the app.
I could be getting the name wrong, to be honest, but I'm gonna check on that. I'm definitely gonna check.
Send it to me once.
Yeah, I will. Those are really good, and when you put one behind your neck, it just keeps you calm. Which I just thought of it when we were talking about the CBD as well. Yeah, nice. Okay, so before we wrap this up, I'd like to come to this is very modern wellness. We've said go back to the basics if you don't have a chance to come to a space like this. But do you think wellness and technology is moving in the right direction, and how much longer do you think it's going to take for regular people to have access to something like this?
So honestly,
Everywhere,
yes,
because here you have it.
yes,
Yeah.
I definitely think it's moving in the right direction. I just feel like I've said, I'm going to reiterate that I think people need to be careful in what they're using or where they're going, because I think the quality is really important. So when you're buying a red light device, um, wait till you can afford one that's a good quality one, because it's not worth the risk of using something that's an inexpensive knockoff. And feeling that there's nothing wrong in doing like the basic stuff, like literally your Epsom salt and magnesium oil and stuff like that. But I think that there's so much research. Every day there's literally something new. There's now these PBM beds, and there's EMF, and there, like you said, sauna blankets and cryo blankets. So there's so much stuff coming out that I do think it is going to get more and more accessible for people. Because of social media and because of people talking about it, there's education and everyone's talking about contrast therapy. Even if it's an ice bath or an ice plunge, at least that's common here where, it's commonplace. Clubs are adding it, clubs are adding cryotherapy as well.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of that. I do think that it will be easily accessible in another couple of years. It should be pretty much everywhere. So it's not just that you have to go to a space to have access, but also regular spaces are adding it. Your parlors are adding it, your gyms are adding it, your clubs are adding it. They're doing collabs. We ourselves do, I mean, every time there's a pickle event or a cricket match or a tennis event in the clubs nearby, we're there with our team as well, providing cryo and providing Normatech and doing trigger point release massages. So there's a lot of collabs in the space that we're also doing to get the word out and to get awareness out. And I do feel like it'll get there I think sooner than we realize.
I mean, like I said, although I find quite a bit of the fitness and nutrition space in India is backward, in this sense, it's quite forward compared. I mean, I live in Spain. I'm born and brought up in Kuwait, and we don't really have it to this extent when it comes to these kind of recovery therapies. We had a cryo space in Kuwait. It didn't even work out. Like, it was open for 2 years and then it failed. Like, people have still not understood the importance of these recovery methods. So it's really interesting that India is actually taking off with this. But I mean, we are growing with technology here
Absolutely.
in a big
There's
way.
there's so much access.
Yeah.
And also as the stock market boomed and people have gotten more affluent, they're traveling more, right?
Yeah.
So they're traveling, they're trying things, they're coming back and saying, okay, they come in knowing what it is. So that's been lovely to see.
Makes sense. And one last question before we finish off. So I work with women in their 30s and their 40s. So just what are the top supplements that they should be taking at the age of not even starting menopause, just before that? Like, I'm 35 going on 36, and I feel things are different,
I can imagine. Very close to you in age, so I can imagine. And this is assuming that you've done your checks and made sure that everything
I
is
have
okay.
not, but I will now for
Yes.
sure.
Creatine is a big one.
That
It's
I
the
take
most
every day.
researched supplement in the world. So that from your muscle perspective and stuff is brilliant. Magnesium in the evening.
Which type of magnesium? Because again, we get different types.
Like I take a triple magnesium complex, which has my citrate and my threonate and glycinate, and all three are in it, So depending on, unless you're someone with severe sleep and then you only need the threonate, but if you're working out, you pretty much, all of us, I think, need a mix of it. So mixture of magnesium, like an elemental magnesium, is great. That should cover all your basics. My mom in particular can't take citrate. She says it wires her. So unless you've had an interaction where you felt like there's something off or doesn't suit you, then switch. But
Citrate makes me poop.
But that it's supposed to.
Yeah. I don't like it. It's not a nice feeling of that. Yeah.
I feel like the whole thing keeps me regular, but it's not an immediate effect. But we do see people like take the IV and they want to go to the bathroom, so it just depends.
So we have.
I say when you're adding a supplement, do it one at a time, because like if you feel like there's an effect like this, you know that, okay, that's my response to magnesium. Maybe the dose is too high, maybe the dose is too little, and you can adjust it immediately. So give it a week with any new supplement before you add on another. Those two, and as a woman, an omega-3, or as you get into your 40s, a primrose oil, but at least an omega-3 is really good. It keeps your heart health in check. It's good for cholesterol.
And what if you're eating enough fish?
I still feel you need it, because your bioavailability of the food, we don't know how much is actually going in. I eat a lot of fish.
Yeah.
But I take a omega-3 and a primrose oil every morning. Joints and your lubrication of your joints and stuff as well. So those three and calcium. As a woman, I think over 35, there should be a calcium.
Nice.
And no one gets D from the sun.
No one gets D from the sun. It's vitamin D.
So if you're doing a calcium, a D with a K2 is great for absorption.
Okay. Actually, I have one more question because it's something I tend to do a lot. I tend to miss a lot of days with supplements. Is it going to backfire, or is it going to have, like if I have my supplements for 3 days and I'm like, yes, I got this, and then I end up a week without anything?
No, I think you're fine.
Yeah? Okay.
Deficiency. So
I don't. I take it just...
to be taking this to kind of bring them up to speed, then you shouldn't miss the days. But if you're doing it for general health and wellness.
General health.
So I do Sundays, I sit and make my pill boxes for the week.
I do that too, but then sometimes I just forget, and then I have it at the same time every day, and then I have one night of going out, for example, drinking, and then the hangover comes in, and then the whole week I'm just like forgotten.
You're generally healthy, you're fine.
And also iron. So iron, some people say you take it all the time if you have a deficiency. Some people say you take it for 3 months.
Okay.
And for me, I only take it just pre-period and during period because I feel extremely fatigued. Okay. So what are your thoughts on...
So iron, I wouldn't tell anyone to take without a blood test.
Yeah.
Even here...
I was deficient, which is why I did. And then during my period, I felt I was deficient. I took the course, I stopped. Okay. And then I realized during my period, I was super low. I feel like
you're deficient, you should do it till a point where you come back to a normal, but anemia is something that stays. I personally am anemic, so that's something that I know. Even during pregnancy, I did iron drips. Even now, when I do my regular, I check my ferritin, I check my transferritin saturation, and I take the iron drip like religiously. Okay. So I did it about, I think in October, the cardiologist made me take 3 back to back because I had missed it and the level was pretty low. And now it's been about 8 months, 7 months, I'm still okay. I've not taken another one and my levels are fine. But that's something that I feel if you're deficient, you should get to a point where you're okay before you stop it. Mm-hmm. And you should be religious with it because it has a lot of other effects. Okay. In terms of your general health, in terms of bone, in terms of even like your heart rate being normal. Like I said, I'm on a beta blocker because I tend to get tachycardic, but it's worse if I'm anemic. Interesting. Yeah, I feel very fatigued during my period. And so when I take it, I feel fine. And then when I don't take it, I feel very low. Okay. But I haven't checked in a while, actually. Last time I checked was 2 years ago. Should be taken with around a vitamin C to increase the absorption. Vitamin C I do take. Yes. But take them together. I will. Thank you for that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for coming on the show. Where can people find you? I am on Instagram. My handle is Mommy Diaries. Elixir's on Instagram as well. I will put it in the show notes. Yeah, and your website and everything as well. Everything is linked onto Instagram. I have a personal blog, but I haven't updated in a while. So Insta is what I keep up. And you also have a podcast. Yes, and I also have a podcast called Spilling Facts on Health and Wellness. There you go. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about IV therapy, about recovery therapies, and what it is Tanya does at Elixir, make sure to check out the podcast, which I will also put into the show notes below. Thanks so much, Tanya. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of It's Pretty Simple. If you like this episode, please make sure to hit like, share it with a friend that you think is going to find it useful. And if you're not subscribed, please make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button. Thank you guys. See you soon.